Welcome back, folks, and we're always happy to have Officer Chris Goodwin here. He's not only, comes on to give us the latest things about the CHP, he's a good friend of mine, and we go back quite a few years, don't we?
Many years.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, he was the best man in my wedding, and I still thank him for that, right?
And he was at my wedding, too.
I was at your wedding, and then, interestingly, I had a book on buying engagement rings. Remember diamond rings?
Yes.
And it was a good book because it really, went in the ins and outs of what to look for and what not to look for. And then I handed it off to you.
And I got the clarity I needed because of that book. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, speaking of clarity, we were talking briefly about some new legislation that just went forward. And this is, it sounds, when you first hear it, it sounds strange, where they're allowing texting while driving, but not really. Why don't you kind of explain that?
Well, as we all know, cell phones in general have to be hands-free, and that includes no texting whatsoever. Well, what that means is that this new law just came out where if you have a thing similar to Siri, and if you're not sure what that is, it's basically when you can talk to your phone hands-free. Well, there's a device out there on certain smartphones where if you talk into it, it will actually text for you. So as long as you're not touching your phone and manually texting, you can now use this new feature based on this new law to text. So essentially, the computer's doing it all based on your verbal commands rather than you actually physically touching the screen. So if you touch the screen, you'll still be stopped, you'll still be cited. However, if you do it with this new law where you verbally do the texting, then it's legal.
Now, you talk about touching the screen. Of course, many vehicles have touch screens in them already. In fact, most of them do. Even if you don't get the navigation, a lot of them, even in their basic package, has touch screens, and they often involve hooking up to your phone. You can get Pandora on it and things like that. You're talking about the phone or another device. If it's built into your car that's made to be a touch screen, you could still do that. Maybe not, I'm not talking about typing out a text, but touching it to go from one radio station to another, that kind of thing. You can still do that if it's part of your vehicle.
Right, if you're using GPS systems or changing stations, that sort of thing, then yes, that's legal because that's built into the car. However, if you have some type of TV screen built into your car that literally plays videos, movies, live TV via satellite, whatever it may be, you can't watch that because it's a distraction to you. Because there's a vehicle code section. If you have a TV mounted in front of the driver, which would clearly be there in the center console facing you, then that would be illegal. Now, if it's turned to the position where just your passenger is able to watch that video, then perfectly fine. But if the driver's watching as well, then we can get them on that other section. So you just got to be careful on which type of device you have and what it actually does.
Right.
So, but I know what you're saying. Most of those are built-in GPS systems that are in the center console rather than just having the portable one up on the dashboard. And then, like you said, Pandora for your music and that sort of thing. So those systems are legal, but not streaming videos and watching TV.
Right, and it's one of those things where we see this. I was listening to one of my tech podcasts, and they often talk about how the laws are sometimes really behind catching up with technology because technology changes like that.
Yes.
And many of the newer cars, I had the pleasure of driving in the high-end Fisker, and their touchscreen is larger than an iPad screen in it. It's huge. It's all built in, but it has all the information there. Many of these touchscreens that are on there now, the Ford system and a few others, they have it where you can load in pictures and video in it. However, when you are in drive, that cuts out those features. You cannot even get to them. But again, it's sort of playing catch up, isn't it? I mean, things change in technology really on a weekly basis.
Yeah, you're so true, and that's why the legislature every year has to revisit so many different laws because you're right, technology, we can't keep, I mean, as soon as you buy a device, it's outdated.
Yeah.
Because they're working on something, the next generation on everything. So same thing with laws. We find out there's a lot of gray area, a lot of loopholes on various things, and then they have to revamp it every so often. So that's why they were able to redo that law this year with that texting verbally because they found, well, if you got two hands on the steering wheel and you're focused ahead, legally, I mean, why shouldn't somebody be able to text if they can talk about it rather than actually holding the device and actually punching it with their fingers. So
Right.
I don't recommend texting at all or even using any
Right.
devices while you're driving. But if people really want to know the legal aspects, that is the law.
Yeah, and some of the systems will actually read your text. I think you can input what you want. You don't, if you're getting text from all different people, you can put in maybe a few key people, it'll read it. And then on the steering wheel, there's actually a button that you can go through maybe 5 different messages saying, I'll get back to you soon, I'm driving right now, or something like that. Here's one that, thank you, Paul, for bringing that up. And this is is this the Fisker? Yeah,
It
this
looks
is
like
the
the
Fisker.
Fisker.
And you can see how big this is. It's
Looks like a
huge.
jumbo jet plane.
Yeah, it does. And I drove one of these at the car show, and of course you can see all the stuff. But now everything on there is legal, but you can see how confusing it is.
Absolutely, because it looks like you're adjusting your AC and heat controls there
Right.
with temperatures.
Yeah.
You've got the GPS system, you got the radio built in. Everything's there.
Right.
You just got to be real careful if you're using these types of devices that you're not distracted, because it's easy to look for 2 seconds to your right and then now somebody stops in front of you.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And unlike years ago where you could be driving and you could by touch feel your radio control, a lot of times with these touch screens, you have to look at it because you don't know what part of the screen you might be touching. Now, a couple of them, I know Cadillac has this on their newest system, where you put your hand over the screen, there's actually capacitive resistance, where when you go over an icon, it will vibrate and you can feel it. So that is definitely helpful, and that's something they developed, I think, as a way to new government regulations. But it can be very, very confusing. Hey, what can be confusing? Putting in child seats. And I know this
Yes.
firsthand. And yes, Chris has helped me many times. And you folks, I'm sure, would like some help if you want to get seats in your car for your grandkids, great-grandkids. You got a few new officers that can help with this now, something that you've done quite often.
yeah, we're quite excited. We just brought in a new commander recently because our last commander just retired. And she was restructuring different things within the office. And one of the things that she noticed was that I was the only one that was doing the child safety seat inspections. And she really wanted to boost up that program because she believes in it, and we all do. So we just sent 4 officers last week who got recertified. So that means there's 5 of us now. And then we're going to send another additional 3 to 4 at the end of this month for the full training as well. So by March, we're looking at probably about either 8 or 9 officers are going to be child safety seat technicians, which means we're going to be able to take a lot more appointments, accommodate people a lot faster, and it's going to really help South County residents.
Yeah, and I know that you used to tell me you could only do so many per day. It can take quite a while. I remember when you did it for me, it took longer getting the old seat out, the one that you put in, because it was in so well.
Yeah.
So it can take you a half hour, 45 minutes to get a child seat in properly, depending on the car and all that kind of stuff. So
Absolutely.
it's nice you have the other officers and that you have a commanding officer there that really sees the importance of that. Something else that's important, we talked about the big game coming this weekend, and I don't know, well, anyway, the big game. And DUI that goes along. You get a lot of young drivers out there. You're going to be stepping up enforcement, aren't you?
Absolutely. We are going to be staffing Sunday with a lot of officers on the road. Reason is, we know from past history that there's a lot of DUI enforcement. We're not looking just to take people to jail, but obviously to keep people safe. We don't want anybody to perish out there on the highways because they were under the influence or they killed somebody that's an innocent victim. So there's going to be a lot of Super Bowl parties. We encourage everybody to have a designated driver.
Right.
We don't recommend trying to monitor your alcohol. We recommend if you're going to drive, don't drink at all.
Right.
If you are going to drink, just have a designated driver. If you have too much, stay at your friend's house. I'm sure they'd be happy to have you on the couch for the night, rather than you drive home and actually kill or injure someone.
Exactly. Well, listen, we're running out of time here. I'm glad you could come by.
Thank you.
And again, there we go.
Quest for 6.
You think I like the Niners? We'll see. We'll see what happens there. I know they're pretty even. I think the Niners are up by about 3.5 or 4. So you're a Niner fan or Ravens fan?
I'm neither.
Okay.
I'm just enjoying the event.
All right. Well, this will be the first year for me in a long time that I'll actually be more focused on the game than I am the food that we always have. But I'll still be making my jalapeno poppers, and everyone seems to enjoy that. Oh, let me get that back to there. There we go. All right, folks, we got to get going. Hey, have a wonderful, safe weekend, all right? And if you got some child seat needs, give this man a call here at the California Highway Patrol down in San Juan Capistrano. Have a good weekend. I'll be seeing you here on Monday, all right? Very good.